What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in review for March 11th, 2024. They tested server meshing, and it worked in more ways than one. Star Citizen backers hate gameplay, and Master Modes is still causing players so much confusion. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, put them into one video, and share some of my opinions about it. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And before we get into the exciting meshing news, let me share with you today's sponsor. This video is brought to you by the spring cleaning champions, Manscaped. Clear out your winter scruff and watch your confidence bloom like springtime flowers. Manscaped is trusted by over 10 million men worldwide, and I'm going to share with you the combination I trust the most: the Beard Hedger beard trimmer and the Handyman compact face shaver. Let's start out with the Beard Hedger. The feature I use the most is the built-in zoom wheel, which has 20 different length settings ranging from 0.5 millimeters all the way to 10 millimeters. I use between 2.5 and 3.5, depending. The game-changing feature for me, though, is that the Beard Hedger can be used in the shower, making me save on a lot of mess. But when I'm looking to get that really close shave on my cheeks and neck, I use the Handyman and its foil shaver. But the combo blade with its leveler is how I'm able to get that nice, clean line on my neck as well. It's my go-to for traveling with its compact size, and just like the Beard Hedger, it can also be rinsed off in the sink for easy cleanup. And both shavers use skin-safe technology, which has been great for my sensitive skin to help reduce nicks and cuts. Embrace the spring season and head over to manscaped.com and get your hands on the Beard Hedger and the Handyman when you use my promo code SaltEMike, and you will get 20% off plus free international shipping. Once again, that's 20% off plus free international shipping with promo code SaltEMike at manscaped.com. All right, thanks again, everybody, for supporting the ad reads, and let's get into those Evo notes, because this week was a week I will never forget. And we'll start out on Wednesday, where there was a 323 Evo stability test, and it was unstable. A lot of 30Ks, barely playable. I can't confirm much in terms of the test at all. I never made it past the first train ride at Microtech. All I can say is that a lot of the FPS changes we will see in the video update section are in the build. Some of the scopes were there, not all as good looking. A lot of the fixes for like item blocking and like that made time to kill just seem weird is fixed. Outside that, there isn't much I can share. It was an Evo patch, right? And it's that way sometimes. But Friday into tonight even, when I'm recording this on Saturday, by the way, there is a 322 build that's testing server meshing with jump points. So that was way more interesting, but again, it was in the 322 branch, so it's hard to know where this all really is. Jump points worked. The art wasn't there, but it worked. There was a ton of edge cases that they need cleaned up, most notably with mission items and mission things, I guess. But I jumped from Pyro and back, and it worked. The player count for me was really low, around 10 players. This was for Friday, but I heard others had more players. The more important tests were Saturday afternoon and Sunday, but a lot's changed. Saturday, they did the 200-player test. Sunday, they were supposed to do the 400-player test. Midway while I was testing on Saturday, I came home from a family event to test it for you guys. They upped the player count to 400. They just merged one server into us, and the players just started saying hello. It had a major hiccup while it was doing that, but I watched the player count rise very quickly. It was really interesting, but it definitely hiccuped, and the most players I saw was about 140 on my server on the Stanton side. I jumped to Pyro, and unfortunately, there were so many players jumping at the same time. Yes, we were jumping at the same time. Somebody was shooting at me in the jump point. So that could be possible, even though in the notes it says it's not. I saw 140 players, but I don't know how many were on the Pyro side, because I instantly blew up the second I got out of the jump gate. So yeah, I don't know if we really know about the scale, and I think that was the most important thing of the test, because again, it was hard to tell how many players were actually there. Internally, I hope things went well. I never saw frame rate lower than 10-ish, but again, these are recently spooled up servers, right? Instead of servers that have been running for a while, like we see on the PU. So we're gonna have to see if this scales in a PTU, open PTU, or live, if it really works. I made a more detailed post on this channel here with more edge cases. If you want to check that out, I'll link it up in the top right of the screen. But with that, let's go into roadmap updates. And roadmap roundup was really small this week. It just had a couple 323 cards. Image upscaling, DLSS, FSR, and the in-house TSR solutions are going to be added to 323. And I spoke about this earlier in the 323 playtest. People were saying it wasn't really working well. If you don't know what this item even is, it's where on more modern GPUs, you can basically make your resolution be 720, but you'll see it at a higher resolution like 1440p, and you will have the benefits of a frame rate as if you're in 720p. Basically, they use AI to make it look nicer, and that's how it works. Volumetric cloud updates. This was supposed to be in 322, but everything we are seeing now on the screen was shown at SitCon and is now going to make it into 323. And also, I spoke about it in the Evo test. There was a new cloud setting called Reference, which was really heavy on CPU and GPU usage, but the clouds looked pretty solid apparently. And yeah, that's really it. There was a lot of discussion on Spectrum with what's going on with the progress tracker. Jake responded and said they're working on it. I don't know what else to say there on that one. I don't think the progress tracker should even exist because it's just silly to me, but a lot of people follow it, so to each their own, I guess. Let's jump into the monthly report where there's a lot of meat in this section, big time. All right, we cut out a lot here because there's such a huge section of this. And we're going to start out with ship art. The Polaris is almost ready to review in its gray box stage, so it's almost ready to move into final art, basically. The Retaliator is also in gray box for its gold standard pass, and it sounds like it's changing quite a bit, and the modules were mentioned. Does this mean modularity tech is kind of on the way? Probably not, but we'll see. They also mentioned a few other ships they aren't ready to say yet. And then the Zeus was also mentioned again, and it's going through its paces. They seem to be moving quick, but it will be hard to tell until, I guess, later in the year to see how many ships they deliver. But it looks like a lot's going on there. And then the core gameplay section. This is beefy. There's a lot here. They said 90% of the Master Mode ships were done. Apparently, they're 100% done with the conversion as of the recording of this video. Getting these ships done is the biggest, most important part of the work for now. But 0.1 patches beyond 323 patches has to deliver on the depth players are looking for. Then jump points were set up, as we spoke about earlier. The UI was dealt with, kind of very placeholder things, but it worked. And new information on Resource Network gameplay with heat being generated by components, which isn't exactly new, but it certainly sounds more involved than we've ever experienced. Life support was mentioned as well, and it's functional. Radar and scanning improvements were also mentioned here, specifically making everyone in ships share the same radar. But this is one I'm a little bit more confused on how it will work or why this is a big deal, and look forward more to hearing about and actually seeing the difference and the changes, I guess, coming into the game and seeing what they mean for us. Arena Commander work is next. Custom lobbies are done and they're working on custom settings, which will make Arena Commander much more what we want, which will likely inform CIG on what players want. For example, I want longer Gravlev races to prove who the best racers are and not who can put in a couple fast laps. They're testing the engineering experimental mode internally as well. Mission work is focused on getting the missions to work with meshing, and as I said earlier, they aren't there yet. Also, something I think is probably one of the more interesting elements of 323, reputation-based hostility stuff, and specifically that they want nearby AI to come to your defense. And nearby with quotes, because what does nearby actually mean? If you're friendly with them. So I'm curious on how this will work. And again, no need to make a comment. We know the AI won't work, but generally how far they intend them to trigger, what a friendly AI means, will they quantum travel to you when you're in distress, like things like that. Obviously the AI won't work. No need to comment on that. It's just a very interesting thing that was written. Automated cargo loading is in, and I love that it will be similar to the refineries and just be done behind the scenes while we focus on other things while we're playing. I saw some kickback for this, but outside ships that are docked on the exterior of the station, I could see that, but I don't see AI doing this for us in our hangars. Again, we just talked about how bad the AI are. Coming up with solutions that make the game work now, I just think is better. They're focusing on the game now, and they know AI are not going to pick up a box and move it into our ship. They know it. So this is the right solution, at least for now. And I just love that they're gamifying the game. And I even more enjoy seeing that players are losing it over the fact that they would make a decision to make the game better in the short term. How are we arguing against this? I have no idea. It's just crazy to me. Economy. The economy team's focused still on cleaning up the mess that was here for years. And they've done that with salvage, apparently. And I really hope this is a better situation than where we've been with that. And they're moving on to what I think is the most important thing for now, and that is the cargo career, right? It touches everything. I guess rewards have to make sense. Commodity prices have to make sense. They have to have the future in mind as well, and you know what I mean by that? I mean crafting, right? The narrative, there's still all talk here in this section. I've seen a lot of talk about narrative, and I've seen no significant action, but talk is where it starts, and they want to create more stories in the PU. They want to create narrative. They mentioned voiceovers. They mentioned meaning. I don't see this much in the events that they're coming with soon, but maybe the Xeno Threat one is the change that we see. We just haven't really had cool storytelling in Star Citizen since Gundo Station, right? That was the monthly report. There was a lot more here than what we covered today. I posted on the React channel as well, but link is down in the description. Make sure you check this out. It was a good monthly report. But let's check out video updates with, we had an ISC and we had an SCL this week. All right, and this Inside Star Citizen was titled First Person Assertion, and the first part they touch on is something I was really concerned about, and I thought it was overpowered and broken when they showed it at CitizenCon.
So for Alpha 323, reloading is kind of two parts. First, you've got your backpack reloading, and then you've got your ammo repooling.
So backpack reloading solves a problem where, for example, you find yourself in a situation in a combat, and you need to reload, but you don't have any spare mags on your suit, but you have in your backpack.
What you can do now is pull additional magazines from your backpack at the cost of an increased reload time.
It was just filling up a lot of your inventory, so we basically decided with backpack reloading that we wanted to kind of condense that gameplay and just do it more on the fly.
It is a reload, but it takes a little bit longer. It's going to play a very simple animation. So the combat flow isn't broken, but you still need to think ahead because this long reload duration can be painful in the combat if you're not careful.
And my fears are pretty well calmed from this. The time it takes to backpack reload, which your backpack can hold way too many mags right now, is quite a fine penalty. Let me know what you guys think, but I liked this implementation. The animation is rough, but the gameplay feels right. Next, they did the exact opposite for me with ammo repooling.
So with repooling, the idea being that if you've got lots of, let's say, we take a 30 mag ballistic magazine, let's say you've got 15, 15, 15, you've got 3 half-empty magazines. The idea being is you just hit a key binding, the animation will play like a rummage, and basically those magazines will condense down into full magazines and then automatically discard the empty ones.
As a result of this process, you will save your precious suit item ports, and then you will have your ammo condensed into your fuller magazines, so you're ready to unleash their full potential onto your enemies.
So with our new UI display HUD, we've basically got a number of the bullets in your magazine, and then we've also got a number of your combined bullets on your total player.
And duration of this operation is going to depend on how much ammo you're shifting around and the type of ammo that you're shifting around. So repolling pistol magazines is going to take a different amount of time than repolling rockets, for example.
That means that we're spending less time in the inventory screen and more time actually in gameplay.
This all will be in 3.23, but after that, we will be looking into throwables and consumables. So you will be able to repull your grenades and your med pens. And there are still a couple of unclear points about some weapons. For example, multi-tool and its salvage canisters. We're still exploring what options we have over there.
This seems to be so automated and not just the proper punishment for having a bunch of half-full magazines. It also oversimplifies looting gameplay on NPCs and players. I have always wanted ammo to be a precious commodity, and this doesn't help that situation. Now, I don't spend a lot of time on Spectrum. I had no idea this was even a pain point for the community.
Oh God, if I see one more forum post about like why do laser guns not, well, why don't laser guns have recoil? It drives me up the wall.
Laser weapons in the first place, like we have them, are really unrealistic for themselves, right? There are no big laser projectiles that come out of weapons. So giving them recoil is very sensible for a game. I think getting rid of recoil in that sense is just boring gameplay.
It's fun. It needs to be in there. You know, you need a challenge when shooting people, you need a challenge when tracking people.
I think you need recoil in order to balance the game and make it fun for everybody.
And again, the only reason that I added this part is to show my joy for knowing that the community is getting upset when CIG adds actual gameplay or makes a design decision in favor of gameplay over some silly realism reasons that the community has. I have sat here on my soapbox asking for CIG to focus on the gameplay side of things, and all I gotta say is thank goodness for some of these guys steering a ship a little bit different than they have for the last 10 years. Next is the scopes, and they kind of continued to work on them with gave a little bit more detail than what we heard at CitizenCon, because we've seen these quite a bit now.
Previously, if you were looking at anything that is, you know, an 8 times or above, it would basically have a black border around the actual scope bit itself. But now that is gone.
The graphics guys did an amazing job at implementing the shaders for these, so the scopes just look way more realistic than they used to be. Nice reflections and a parallax effect. This is something different.
Just a gorgeous view. I can't wait for you guys to see them. It's probably the most exciting thing for me personally in 3.23.
If you look through the scope, you actually see the scope inside. And depending on if it's a holographic scope, a telescopic scope, or a TV screen scope, the shader will look different as well. And then we took it and brought it to basically every scope, adjusted the shader so that it looks nice on that particular scope, and added a few other functionalities to scopes as well. For example, we will have multiple zoom levels on scopes. Currently, we just have 8 times zoom, but in the future, for 3.23, we will be able to have 8 times and 16 times zoom, or 2 times and 4 times zoom.
And because our new recoil is a lot more aggressive and dynamic, it means that the reticle is moving as you'd expect on screen relative to where the actual barrel is. So not only does it help with the new procedural recoil, it also helps with the believability of the optics as well.
So I think the whole scope experience or ADS experience with scopes is just gonna get better from here on.
I honestly don't have much to add here other than that I can't wait for them to get in my hands. There is more, the dynamic crosshair, and I've not been a fan of this one.
Dynamic Crosshair is also coming in Alpha 3.23.
Dynamic Crosshair is in the name, it's a crosshair. But the good thing about our crosshair is it's a little more futuristic, a little bit more sci-fi.
So in 3.23, when you equip a combat visor, you'll have a dynamic crosshair on your screen. This follows the barrel of the gun, which is really cool because if you're reloading and you pull the gun up like that, the crosshair will actually go off screen like that. So it fits into the aesthetic of Star Citizen because it's grounded in the context of where the barrel actually is, which is really cool because if you've got a pistol which shoots a bit more up like this, it actually follows it as you would expect. Previously, you were always kind of point shooting, and it causes a problem in not knowing how big your crosshair actually is for your weapon. So we had to make the spread on the weapons a bit smaller than usual because if you're going to point shoot, you have the issue of like, where is my bullet actually going to go? This allows us to say, hey, this is actually kind of what your cone of spread is, and we can increase the spread values of weapons themselves, which leads to better gameplay and people actually focusing on ADSing down sights, even in like 10-meter engagement ranges.
And it also just gives that player a little bit of extra information. So when you're hiding behind a wall or you're close to proximity with an object, the crosshair is actually going to let you know if you're going to hit the object or if you're going to shoot past it.
I heard people saying this is unrealistic. I'm fairly certain we can do this with our technology today. So 900 years in the future shouldn't be a problem to have at least military tech to have this crosshair component to them.
It's a crosshair that not only fits the aesthetic of Star Citizen, but cleanly fits into what you'd expect for Star Citizen as well.
We are able to deactivate it, so if you don't like it, there's a menu option for you. You can also disable the new hit markers independently of the crosshair. So if you just prefer to keep the hit markers, you can keep them. If you prefer to keep the crosshair and not the hit markers, you can do that as well.
So you can fully utilize it to make it your own, what you want from the game. So you can have it completely off or on. And then we have things like obviously updated hit markers, and we also have a final hit red X as well to let you know that you've confirmed that kill.
All right, some of these clips are long, and this was the longest so far, but I've come around a little bit more on this, especially with the level of customization you have. But I have to say, the kill marker is the most arcadey thing. It makes no sense and feels a little handholdy to me. One of the key things I have learned while getting better at Star Marine, I guess, is knowing when my opponent is dead and saving my magazine pool for the next person that's coming around the corner. This removes that entirely. It's a small gripe, but it's a gripe I'm going to hold on to. And lastly, was the most controversial thing of the entire episode.
Yeah, if you compare the scopes that we have now to what we have coming in 323, it is going to be completely, I think, game-changing.
I don't know if you caught it, so go back if you need to, but if you are looking at a target through a sniper scope, it shines. Similar to the games like Battlefield. People lost their minds over this. My feeling is this. Snipers were a royal pain at Jumptown. They are a little underpowered now, but we'll see in 323. And if you don't like it, sound off when it's in. Sound off now too, but trust me, they are reading the feedback and they are watching the streams. They are seeing this. I've been very loud about the state of certain weapons, and they are absolutely hearing me. The sniper glint can be adjusted, can even be removed, but we have to let them try things to balance the gameplay. So sound off, but don't forget that you're playing a video game. Then we had Star Citizen Live, question and answer for Master Modes, and I feel like this isn't their first question and answer on Master Modes, and they have not been successful in the past. This is a complicated issue that really requires the feature to be in players' hands. I remember the last big change they made, everyone hated it in practice when they talked about it, and came around to it when it was in our hands. But anyway, there isn't much to clip out here that is new and important information. What we're getting is a very tier 0, it seems, version of Master Modes. They mentioned not even having QEDs figured out yet, which is the most important piracy tool in the game. So I decided to just clip out one question because I think this sums up where we're at right now.
This question came in and says, what are your red lines in terms of balance? Are there any parameters that you're simply unwilling to adjust, like SEM speeds or IFCS slowdown? Is there anything off the table right now? It's like, no, it's this, we won't even listen to this, we won't even consider this. Maybe another game company person would never ask as developers this, but I want to see it. I want to know. Talk to these people. Is there anything that's actually off the table?
Okay, so nothing is off the table. Of course, we're somewhat more resistant towards certain things than others. Obviously, like the SEM speed limits are a couple of was brought up by the community quite a lot. But then again, we're getting a lot of advantages from that. So we will try to address the worries that we have. For example, usually when people say, "Oh, the speeds are too slow," this means either they cannot go fast from A to B, or it means they're not evasive enough, right? But these problems can be solved in a different way. So concerning the speeds, we will try to be rather conservative with changes. It does not mean that we're fixed, right? If our gameplay tests with the community show, we should just add 100 meters per second more, fine, we'll do it, right? but it needs to be going through a proper process internally, because like it's just not something that we can right away promise. But nothing, and I mean nothing is ever fixed, right?
Yeah, and I do think it's important to say that, like with any kind of virus stuff that we're tuning, we're always open to trying different things, but we've set out a framework of what we think works, and in the end, it comes down to a choice. Because before we had a lot, we had a lot higher speed, and that wasn't always positive. So we've made the decision based upon certain factors that a lower speed works better, but it doesn't mean that moving to a lower speed means it never has any negatives, because a choice is end of the day. We've made that choice to go slower, and we do think overall it's going to be better than the speeds we had before.
They are not against changing things. This is a work in progress. They have made a choice that they think is better. For me, they have to prove to me that I can trust in their choices. We have had a subpar flight experience for a really long time now, but the only way to build that trust is for us to let them deliver on what they can for 323 and see if they build from there. See how they action our feedback. If they don't do it, then honestly, it's over anyway. So it doesn't even matter at that point to me, like for real. If they don't action our feedback and listen and make the changes that need to make the game better, then what are we doing here in the first place, right? Let's move on to other updates, because, yeah, that was a long video section. All right, and as always, we start out with the sneak peek, and this one is for a mission chain with some story. Now, that story, as far as I'm aware, is all text, and it's called Overdrive. Xenothreat's involved in this, but people seem to have been enjoying it in the testing of it, but all I've really seen is that it's a lot of the same missions that we have today, and they're just kind of tied together very loosely. I don't know. It's a little bit more interesting than what we have, but it's a lot of the same. So I'm not going and gonna get all excited over playing the same missions that we've already played with a little additional flair on it. Speaking of flair, subscriber flair. They had an update on it. The $10 sub flare is just a tankard, and the $20 sub flare is a green C54. And reminder to everybody that they're selling items that are exactly the same as the in-game items with a different color instead of skins. Just a reminder that it's the stupidest idea possible for the way to do item skins. And then lastly, the substore exclusives, because there's actually two items, are a different tankard and a green pistol. Sorry, that is one of those gripes that in a hill that I will die on. But that really holds true. It doesn't make any sense. But anyway, that's all we have for this week, guys. I can talk about that for hours, and I will not. Thank you so much for watching. As always, leave a like, leave a comment down below on anything that we discussed today, anything we might have missed. I will say I purposely left out some of the dev comments on the website because there were so many of them, and honestly, most of them were just Zach defending his decisions for the like the sniper rifle and recoil and other things like that. So it's just, we'll have to see when it's in the game, so I don't see there being too much value to it there. Other than that, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. It's been a wonderful ride. I've been making a lot of changes with the channel, posting a little bit more of the updates of what's going on in Evo or what's going on in the general news with Star Citizen. You guys seem to be enjoying it. So keep sounding off and letting me know that you're enjoying the content, because it makes me feel really good, and it makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing, and I'm finding my groove here on YouTube finally, and I've really been enjoying it. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.